Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at Cursor AI. Now in a moment we're going to be trying it, but before that I just wanted to say a few things about what Cursor AI actually is. It's really similar to GitHub Copilot or Code Whisperer from Amazon or JetBrains AI Assistant and the many other AI based coding assistants, except that it's a little bit more because it's much more integrated into your developer experience. Now Cursor AI is a fork of Visual Studio Code rather than an extension because they wanted much tighter integration with the tooling. Now there's a lot of useful information on their website, including links to the actual company behind it, which you can find here, which is Anysphere. Now, don't expect to find a lot of information about the company here, but there's a few people that are involved. So if you're interested in the company or how they've been funded, that might be worth looking into. They've got a pretty good blog, which is also worth checking, and also a forum where, in case you're stuck or you want to dig a bit deeper, this might be a good place to take a look. All right, so before we take a look at Cursor, how do you actually get access to it? Well, you simply hit the download link and install it for your particular operating system. And if we look at pricing, they actually have a free tier, but for 2 weeks you'll be running in pro mode, so you get access to all the pro functionality. But of course when that ends, you're back to the free version, and we'll have a little look at what that means later on. So let's go ahead and see it in action now. So here we are in Cursor. So if you're used to using VS Code, this is of course going to look very familiar. Now for my testing, I've got a very simple Java project which is based on Gradle build system, but it doesn't really matter, it could be any type of code. So how do we actually invoke Cursor AI? Well, you can see immediately that you've got commands there, Command L to chat and Command K to generate, so you've got that hint there. So let's try Command K and let's see if we can ask it for something fairly straightforward. Now, before we actually proceed with that request, you can actually see the model that it's using and the other options you have, but we'll come back to that later. So let's hit enter. Okay, it's generated this function. Now, let's say we're going to accept that and let's do some imports. All right, so next up, let's see if we can highlight this and say Command K. Can this code be made faster for a high performance application? All right, so let's accept this suggestion. And now let's talk to the AI and see if we can find out why this is actually faster. All right, so I asked it why this is faster than the previous suggestion. It does mention the previous suggestion, but I'm not sure it actually still has a reference to what it was before the new suggestion. But regardless, it does go into the performance characteristics of the new implementations. So I think that's pretty good. The explanation is clear and concise, and it seems to have done exactly what we wanted pretty quickly. All right, so far we've seen Command K and Command L. So now let's try a new chat. Now, if I go over here and I say, tell me about this project. There's nothing particularly great in this project anyway, but let's have a look. Let's try that. Okay, so it talks about the languages and structure. It's a main class, utility method, functionality, code quality, blah, blah, blah. There's not much, as I say, in this project. It's just a dummy project, but it does seem to go through the code and tell you what the kind of main points are. Now let's try something else instead of this. Let's try, tell me about this project, but then we'll say Command Enter. And what this does is it does an AI scan of your project and gives you much better information. Now, when you press Command Enter instead of Enter, it's really like chatting to your code base rather than talking about an individual file. Another way to do that is to use @codebase, and you can just select it from the drop down there, and we can do the same thing. All right, great. So next up, let's go to Command L again, and we've opened up a new chat window. Next up, I wanted to show you how you can reference different things in the chat. So you can simply put @ and then straight away you've got access to docs, Git, code bases, and other things, but we're going to go with files. So let's say files and say build Gradle, and then we can ask a question about that. All right, and there you get some quite useful output in a human readable form that could be quite useful if you pick up a new project, for example, and you just want to get to grips with it without trawling through lines and lines of code. That could be very handy. All right, so the next quick thing I wanted to show you is that we can use AI in the terminal itself. So if we go over to the terminal and we hit Command K, and here we could try something simple like find all the files ending in .java. And you see straight away it comes back with the find name star.java command. So let's try that one and just see that it works. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now let's add some more instructions. Now, I'm pretty good with fairly basic terminal commands, but if I have to do anything complicated, I always end up having to look things up or use Stack Overflow or ChatGPT, and this has done it all for you. So let's see if it actually works. And yes, it does. That looks pretty good. So there you have it. You can use AI in the terminal as well as in the code base itself. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you is that if you've got some project-specific rules you want to pass to Cursor, you can do that in a .cursor rules file. And if you want to find examples of the kind of rules that you can use, well, you can simply go to the cursor.directory website and you find loads of examples there. So if my project was, say, Java and Spring Boot, we could select Java or we could select Spring Boot, let's say Spring Boot. And here you can find examples of cursor rules that have been provided by other users. So let's just copy that as a starting point. Take it over to our project, put it in there, and let's just have a look through this. So you're an expert in Java programming, Spring Boot, Spring Framework, Maven, JUnit, etc. Code style and structure, write clean, efficient, well-documented code. Spring Boot specifics, naming conventions. You can see lots and lots of instructions given here, and you can certainly customize these to tailor them to your project. Let's go back over here and see if we can find something for Gradle. So you might want to, for example, in our project here, talk about Gradle, the fact that it's a Gradle project. And all of this context is provided to Cursor when it's providing answers. So you get much more tailored responses. So depending on your project, whether it's a front end, back end, or any other type of project, you can find lots of examples of instructions that you can give to the Cursor rules directory. Now you can also set these rules globally at the IDE level. But for me, a lot of my projects tend to have quite different technologies, so I would prefer to do it on a per project basis. All right, the next thing I wanted to mention is that often you're working with specific frameworks or libraries or technologies, and you may want to add custom documentation entries into the IDE, so Cursor can crawl that documentation specifically and give you much more accurate answers. But not only are you likely to get better answers, you can actually reference that documentation directly, for example, like this. All right, so that was a pretty brief demo of Cursor AI. We didn't go into lots of detail about testing the kind of quality of the suggestions. That may be something I do in a later video, but I wanted to quickly list out some of the key features and ways in which you can use Cursor AI. Now, I mentioned earlier how you can utilize different models, but these models are kind of related to the pricing. These O1 Mini and O1 Preview are the very recent models that have come out from OpenAI. In fact, I made a video about that on this very channel, but these are, of course, linked to pricing. So let's just jump over and have a look at the pricing section on the website. Now you see here in the free tier, if you ignore the 2-week trial and just see what you would get, 2,000 completions, you get 50 slow premium requests. You have this concept of different types of requests. And if you look at the pro version, you have unlimited completions. You have 500 fast premium requests per month. And this tells you that GPT-4, GPT-4o, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet are counted as premium models. You have unlimited slow premium requests, and you have 10 O1 Mini uses per day. Now, if you saw my video about O1, you would have seen that O1 Mini is sometimes better for programming than O1 Preview, but you only get 10 of these per day. Now, there's a section here that talks about the difference between fast and slow uses. It says the fast uses of premium models are given first priority by our backend. On Pro, once you hit your fast usage limit, you can still use premium models, but your requests may be queued behind others at times of high load. Now, if you look at their premium models, you have GPT-4, 4o, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet are all considered premium models. You've got 500 of these uses, and it's unlimited slow uses each month for these models. Now, to me, depending on how much you actually end up coding in your job, 500 fast uses doesn't seem like that much in a month. But let me know in the comments below whether this is something that you would pay for, whether you'd stick to the free tier, or whether you're quite happy with, say, GitHub Copilot or whatever AI editor that you're currently using. I'm Saeed, the Codogrammer, and if you don't want to be the last to know about AI, tech, programming, and business news, make sure you hit subscribe. Thank you for watching.